Welcome back. We've been considering, if you would, the spiritual basis of this war that we have been challenged to be a part of. And we're delving into Ephesians chapter 6, verses 10 to 20, considering the challenge given to us to put on the whole armor of God in order that we might be able to fight the spiritual wars that are that's being played out around us at all times. Ephesians 6, beginning of verse 10. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles, the trickeries, the chicanery of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against the spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenlies. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Stand therefore, having girded your waist with truth, having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and having shod your feet with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, with which you will be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked one, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, being watchful to this end with all perseverance and supplication for all the saints, and for me, that utterance may be given to me, that I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains, that in it I may speak boldly as I ought to speak. As we engage in this spiritual war, we are given then the command to put on the whole armor of God, in order that in that war we might be able to stand. Again, I need to comprehend that this is a war. It's for keeps. In my military days, I was a programmer, computers. I never had to go to the front. I served during Desert Storm, but I didn't go to Iraq. I went to St. Louis. I wrote programs to process all the data for the guys who were going. But in that, I comprehend the potential of being there, because in the military, if you're in the Army, you understand this, that in the end, everybody is infantry. In the end, regardless of what your MOS was, regardless of what your specialty was, in the end, you were a soldier. In the end, you're either potentially on the front line or fighting in a defensive posture. And you better be prepared to know how to use your equipment, that you as well would be issued that equipment, and you better know how to use it. And you wanted to know how to use it all. If I knew how to put on my helmet, but I didn't know how to point the gun and shoot it, I would still be a sitting target. If I knew how to use the gun, but I didn't know how to put on my gas mask, I would be a target for when the Scud missiles were bringing in the chemical warfare. We are told to put on the whole armor of God. Too many times we treat this like a fashion statement, and we want to pick and choose what we want to wear, what we feel comfortable with, what we feel gifted with, what we feel is in our own strength and power to be able to accomplish. But remember, it's not supposed to be in my strength and in my power, not in my might, but in God's. It is He who is empowering me as I put on that whole armor. We'll spend a couple days going over that armor, but for right now, I want to look at that big picture. It's the belt of truth. It's even the sandals or the boots, if you would, of the preparation of the gospel of peace. It's the breastplate of righteousness. It's the helmet of salvation. It's the shield of faith. It's the sword of the Spirit. And it's also the prayers of the saints. We tend to forget the prayer as a part of the whole process of this armor. And yet it is the power, the fervor, the life that's within the armor. It's that which makes us move. We are told to put on the whole armor of God. Not the armor of Bob, but the armor of God. Again, it is this recognition of submission, of understanding that God is in control, that God is in charge, that God is the one who has the right to define and give me the wisdom to know how to properly, quote unquote, fight the battle, to live my life. I challenge you today that as you pray, to ask the Lord if you really are fully engaged as a soldier, a part in His spiritual war, and where you are in that process of putting on the whole armor of God. And those things which you need to grow in, those things which you might need to confess, that you willfully do that. And that by God's grace, He would encourage you and strengthen you to put on that whole armor and become involved and committed to playing your part in this spiritual war. Pray and have a blessed day.